Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Sammy. A lot of you have asked me to throw my hat in the ring on Krafton's purchase of 11th Hour Games. So in this video, I'm going to give you my take. To be quite frank, there was a lot of mistakes made by 11th Hour Games. In my humble opinion, it's caused them to be in the position that they're in. We're going to talk about the recent announcement that we are now going to have to pay for paid DLCs in Last Epoch. That goes against 11th Hour's Games position since day one, that outside of the initial purchase of the game, you would never have to pay for any new content in Last Epoch. That's a position they've held since day one. Well, boy, how things have changed. So in this video, I'm going to highlight my position on the critical errors that brought us to where we are, and more specifically, what 11th Hour Games, whether they did it by mistake or whether they did it on purpose. There was critical indicators, to me anyway, that really demonstrated things that they needed to address that they never addressed. So I hope you stick around and find out what we're going to talk about. We got a lot of things to cover here, so let's get to it. All right, so let's do some history lessons here. So July 25th, 2025, we get this announcement. Krafton acquires 11th Hour Games, creators of Last Epoch, and we know that Last Epoch has sold over 3 million copies worldwide. And through this article, we know that Krafton acquired 100% of 11th Hour Games, okay? Now, we fast forward to November 2025, and we get this announcement from Last Epoch's Season 4 and Beyond expansion announcement. Basically, what I want to highlight here, Last Epoch has always been PC only. Well, they are now going to be launching it with PlayStation players, PlayStation 5 players specifically. So anyone that wants to play Last Epoch on PlayStation 5 will have to purchase it, even if you own it on PC. If you want to play it on PS5, you got to purchase it. But this is where things go a little bit awry. Alongside the free expansion content, I'm excited to announce that we're introducing something genuinely new to Last Epoch, a fully alternate playable class built on systems that work differently from anything else in the game. We're calling this new category Paradox classes, and the first one will debut alongside the upcoming expansion as paid DLC for players who want to explore new playstyles. These classes will let us experiment in new and innovative ways, and we'll have plenty to share as we get closer to release. We're committed to supporting Last Epoch for years with new stories, system itemizations, way to play, onboarding improvements, seasonal mechanics, and more. There's never been a better time to step in the world of Atira. So we finally get the answer to, will this Krafton EHG relationship change the free-to-play model? And the answer is a hell 100% yes. So clearly this has done two things. Number one, it goes against what 11th Hour Games has always preached, that Last Epoch will never be, you'll never have to pay it. Once you purchase the game, it's free to play from then on there, regardless of all the expansions and DLCs that they add. That has now changed and shifted, okay? So we're getting this new Paradox class that people are going to have to pay for. Now, that's all fine and dandy. At the end of the day, 11th Hour Games is a business, it's a video game studio, and they need to be profitable. So this brings you up to date on what is happening right now with Last Epoch. So how did we get here? In my opening statement, I said to you that I stepped back and I wanted to reserve judgment until I saw this fleshed out. Well, now it's fleshed out. We know there's going to be content in Last Epoch that we are going to be paying for. It's not free to play anymore once you purchase the original game. Okay? So what are the critical areas, in my humble opinion, that caused us to get here? And I'd like to submit to you my following rationale. So, in order to get a picture of the future, we need to go into the past if we want to understand how we got to where we are today. So let's go to the past. This is SteamDB. Now, when it comes to SteamDB, you kind of have to take it with a grain of salt, but you don't when it comes to Last Epoch, because Last Epoch is 100% PC only. Now, that's going to change once it's implemented on PlayStation 5, the console. But for now, these numbers are very, very accurate. So if we go all the way back to the initial release, 1.0, whatever you want to call it, season 1, however you want to call it, that is when the game came out and they put it into full release. And as you can see, they had 265,000 players sign on that day and play, but they had a really, really good, for Last Epoch, these were really, really good numbers. But as you can see, and this highlights problem number 1, is Last Epoch has, and I can't put my finger on the problem, why it's like this, but for some reason, Last Epoch cannot sustain players for a long time. There is a huge drop-off after a week, after 2 weeks, and I personally have experienced this. I think the most I've ever played a cycle, a season, whatever they call them now, I think the most I ever played was 2 to 3 weeks max. But while I was even live streaming my Last Epoch content, I would always get an influx of players telling me, you know, I tried Last Epoch, but I don't know why it just doesn't grab me. I'd get a lot of those comments every time I'd be streaming Last Epoch. But these numbers really explain and show that, look at this steep drop off. So season 1, 264 in February. By March, April, we're down to like really, really steep cliff, off a cliff numbers, right? 1.1 comes out, nowhere near 1.0, and they only had what, 70,000 players, something like that. But again, as you can see, off the cliff real quick. Cycle 2 comes, season 2 comes, whatever they call it, in April of 2025. And again, by May, June, steep cliff, drop off. Okay. Season 3 comes, and as you can see, so 1, 2, 3, every season, not only are the influx of players coming to play and try that new cycle, new season is getting lower every new season, every new cycle, but it's also, again, steep drop off. So to me, an issue that Last Epoch didn't fix was, how can we sustain more players and keep them playing Last Epoch longer? Now, I understand that with ARPGs, it's just sometimes the nature of the genre, okay? Because there's so many other ARPGs out there, right? There's Diablo 4, there's Titan Quest, there's PoE 1, and now PoE 2. So I understand there's a certain part of the player base that jump back and forth between all these ARPGs, like myself. But these other ARPGs don't have, all of them have a drop off. There's people that will leave, right? I get that. But these are steep off the cliff drop offs. And it's a problem. And they really didn't address it by making the game more fun and adding sustainability to the player base. I hope that makes sense. So to me, that's a problem. Problem number 1. Problem number 2 was 11th Hour Games stating from day one that they would never charge for any new content or any new DLCs. I think that was a grave error. I applaud them for taking that position, but it But you should never say never, in my humble opinion. You should always leave the door open. You don't need to make that statement from day one. They should have left the door open, okay? So that was another problem. And problem number 3 is, if you're going to take the stance that you are not going to charge for new content, and your way of making money and staying profitable is the sales of the game and MTXs, well, then you better damn well have, number one, a really good game that players want to play, and number 2, cosmetics that really attract the player base to purchase them. And let's just take a look at some of the cosmetics here. And I'm not going to take a deep dive, and please, no disrespect to the people that created these cosmetics. They are beautiful, don't get me wrong, okay? But it starts as low as $9, and I think it goes all the way to $59 or even more. Yeah, $59, okay? So these are the supporter packs. Again, you know, some skins, some pets, portals, and then you can get into like the cosmetics section. Again, wings, portals, but I don't think they really dedicated enough staff to making this stuff really stand out like it does. I don't think I've ever gone a league in Path of Exile where I haven't purchased either a supporter pack or a cosmetic. And to me, there's 2 reasons why. For example, I'm using Path of Exile as an example. There's 2 main reasons why people purchase supporter packs and cosmetics in Path of Exile. 2 reasons. Number 1, they know they're going to play Path of Exile because the game is that good, okay? So the game attracts you league in and league out, number 1. So the game is sustainable. Players know, you know what, if I spend this $20, $30, $50 on this cosmetic, on this supporter pack, I know I'm going to get my value on it because I know I'm going to play it, number 1. Number 2, the reason why people throw money at Path of Exile and Grinding Gear games is the cosmetics are amazing. They're unbelievable. The hideouts, the skill animation, the cosmetics for your characters. You can tell they have resources dedicated to making the best cosmetic supporter packs in the industry. And I feel because Last Epoch doesn't sustain players with the game because of whatever reason, I can't put my finger on it. And 2, clearly there isn't a huge focus on creating OP supporter packs and shop cosmetics in Last Epoch. So when you take the position that you're not going to charge for DLCs, and your revenue stream are the sales of the game and cosmetics, MTXs, you need to focus on the game and on the cosmetics. And they didn't. Well, sorry, let me take that back. Clearly, they did everything they could from the game perspective, okay? But on the cosmetic, they definitely dropped the ball, in my humble opinion. And that is the reason why they were never profitable and why they had no choice after 3 seasons of up, crash. These are crashes to me, even though we got a nice jump, crash. They can't sustain players, and this is why we are where they are. Their business model didn't align with the values of the company. Now, some of you might say this is a harsh explanation, and I can only speak from personal experience of running a business. Now, I've never run a video game studio, but when it comes to your goals, revenues, expenses, you need to have an understanding of how the two work. What's your revenue coming from? What are your expenses coming from? And you better make sure your revenue streams are outpacing your expenses. And clearly, 11th Hour Games didn't align their revenue streams efficiently enough. And I think the fact that they couldn't sustain players and the fact that they didn't really prioritize trying to make more money through their cosmetics, I think it hurt them in the long run and is a reason why they couldn't be profitable, and the reason why they had to go and look for someone to give them the money in order to continue this ship moving forward. Because as they stated, if they didn't make this move with Krafton, they didn't know whether or not they would continue to be able to make Last Epoch. So the writing was on the wall. It's really unfortunate. I do have to say, I'm a big supporter of 11th Hour Games. I like Last Epoch. The only thing that really I don't like about Last Epoch is the fact that it doesn't grab me. And I think that's a sentiment that a lot of players feel. So I'm hoping now with this relationship with Krafton, they can turn the page and start making this game where it can sustain players for more than a couple of days a week. I know a lot of people do play the game for longer, don't get me wrong, but I would say that the majority of the player base feel the same way, that they just play it and then they're gone much quicker than the other ARPGs out there, in my humble opinion. Anyway, let me know what you think. What are your thoughts on this? I'm very, very interested to see what the numbers are going to be for Last Epoch with this paid DLC, with this new paradox system, how much buy-in. I'm also curious to see if they're going to address the core issues I feel are in the game. Player sustainability, making the game where people play it more, and are they going to start putting a focus on cosmetics? Maybe they don't need to anymore since Krafton is funding them, but I would argue there's even more of a sense of urgency. 11th Hour, Krafton is not going to just pump money into them and expect nothing in return. And this is why a clear example is this paradox system that we're now going to have to pay for. Krafton is saying, you better start giving some of our money back. We want to see some return ROI on our money. And there you go. They're going to be charging for it. The question is, what's that going to do to the player base? Now, they sold 3 million copies when everything was, you just got to buy the game once and everything's free. And, you know, EHG had this, you know, white and shining armor image. Now, you know, wrong or rightfully, a lot of people are upset of the fact that they're going to be charging for DLC and that they sold to Krafton. So we're going to see how this all pans out. But anyway, let me know your thoughts. Is this going to impact your relationship with Last Epoch? If you were playing Last Epoch consistently, does this change the dynamics between you wanting to play the game? And are you going to consider purchasing the paradox system? Get in the comment section and let me know. I read all the comments. I try to respond to as many as I can. But anyway, that's my explanation. Basically, there were some critical errors made, in my humble opinion. And to be honest with you, they really had no choice. They were not profitable. So as far as what I'm going to do and whether I'm going to be playing Last Epoch, I do want to play Last Epoch, but I'm going to reserve my judgment on whether or not I'm going to purchase the DLC until I see exactly everything that comes with this new paradox system, and then I'll make my decision. Anyway, thanks for watching, everybody. And as always, if you could like, comment, and subscribe to my content, it would mean the world to me. And as always, we'll hope to see you next time. Take care. The opinions expressed in this video are mine and solely mine. Healthy debate is always encouraged. Hate is never welcomed. So get over it.